welcome. Today I'm going to take you on a journey from Skopje to Seattle, which is basically my journey in tech. For those of you who don't know me, I already see a lot of familiar faces in the audience. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Elena Drakulevska. I work as a BI consultant at a data consultancy company called Telecom, and I have two great passions, which are Power BI and UX design. And I was so passionate about those two topics that last year I started speaking at conferences. And in January this year, I also started a blog called Moonstory. So I'm also the creator of Moonstory. You can find it at moonstory.design. And I also have my contact details over here. I'll share the slide again at the end, no worries. You don't need to connect right now. So, our itinerary for today starts in Skopje, and through Milan and Vienna, I'm going to take you to Seattle. So I've lived in 3 of the cities that are listed here. Spoiler alert, I've never lived in Seattle. Not yet, you never know, but yeah. So I come from Skopje, the capital of Macedonia. I grew up there. I spent basically most of my life there, so 22 years. And it's the place where I did my bachelor's degree in telecommunications engineering. And now you might wonder, what has telecommunications to do with data? And I'm coming from a really small country. It's 2 million people. And I was told actually that the Strip in Vegas has more than 2 million people only. So it's a small country, but I always yearned to explore the world. So I was curious about cultures. I wanted to explore, to travel, to read books. And it seemed like a logical next step in my career to go abroad for my master's studies. And that's what I did. So I chose Milan, or Milan chose me. And I moved to Italy for La Vita Bella. And I lived there for a couple of years. And I did my master's degree at Politecnico di Milano, and surprise, surprise, it's again in telecommunications engineering. But I was so lucky because it was a mix between telecommunications and computer science. So I got insight into topics like data mining or databases or even machine learning. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so interested in this. I want to explore more. And I started playing with the thought, should I switch to data completely? Now, this is not something you want to tell your parents after 6 years in telecommunications. They supported my journey and all. So I was like, okay, probably I shouldn't just go with my gut. Maybe I need to make an informed decision. So I started taking some online courses. I wanted to explore more about the data world. And that's how I learned about ETL, a bit of data engineering, and I started learning Tableau. So probably this is not something you want to say at this kind of conference. And I obviously switched to Power BI later on. But I was like, okay, now I think I want to do this. So I was determined to find a job in data. So I moved to Vienna. I found a job there as a data consultant. And the choice wasn't for the job. I moved there because of love. I've heard it's a story as long as time. But I was lucky enough to find a job as a data consultant. And I was working in the beginning mostly as a data engineer. And, consultancy job, you don't always pick your projects. And you kind of sometimes have to do things that come your way. So I was put on a Power BI project. And I had to learn so much in such a short time that I had to do long hours. So sometimes I would stay after work and read about it. It was a whole new world to me. But I started thinking, even after all these long hours, I didn't feel tired at the end of the day. I was excited to learn more about it. And probably I wasn't super aware that this is what I want to do until I got my next data engineering project. Now, all due respect to all the data engineers in the audience, we Power BI developers and designers really need you. But I realized that I want to do Power BI. I started thinking about what brings me joy. And Power BI really brought me joy. When I was learning and doing Power BI, I didn't feel like I was working. So my first learning of this journey is that you should always ask yourself, what brings you joy? What are you curious about? And I don't want to say follow your passion, because people sometimes say, yeah, but I don't know what my passion is. And it doesn't matter. You just need to do what you're curious about, explore more, do more. And I consider myself lucky, because when I had this first Power BI project, I got to work with Nikola Ilic, or you probably also know him as Data Mozart. So we worked together for a couple of months only, 2 or 3 months, and he was the lead developer on the project. And he would sometimes give me pointers, some guidelines, and I was just, I loved how his way of thinking was, and I never struggled to go after and explore after a chat with him. And we were working at the same company. Just keep in mind, this is around, it's still COVID times. So we were working at the same company, we lived in the same country, but we never met in person. So we did meet, and we had like a very interesting first encounter, because it was in Legoland, in Billund, where I went to attend Power BI Next Step. And he was a speaker there, I was just attending. And this is a photo from our first encounter. We spent a day in Legoland, and then 2 days it was the conference. And it was my first data conference, and I really liked the vibe that was going on over there. And I met this data community and this energy. And I don't know, I fell in love with it. I was really happy to be there and to meet all these people that are passionate about the same things. And Nikola just casually mentioned, hey, maybe you could start speaking. And I think that, it kind of got in his, it went in his favor, because it was a cool place and I really liked the vibe there. And I was like, yeah, sure, maybe Nikola, in a couple of years, I can start speaking. So this was in September 2022. And he was like, well, there's a conference called New Stars of Data. The call for the next one is already closed. But in May, there's another one, and I think you can do it. And, this voice started appearing in my head that, why should I be the one speaking? I'm still learning, I'm still growing. There's so many people who've spent years in this industry, and they have a lot more knowledge. So why should I speak? I felt like I'm still learning. And Nikola told me that, when you prepare a session, you really learn a lot about the topic. So it kind of makes you an expert. And I bought into that. And a couple of months later, he showed up and he pinged me and said, hey, the call for New Stars of Data just opened. And I was like, oh my God, he remembered. What am I gonna do now? Now I have to submit. And kind of in parallel with all this, I had gotten a scholarship about UX design from Google. And as I was learning about user experience design, I realized a lot of these principles, a lot of these processes can be applied to Power BI reporting. And it was kind of a whole new world. I was passionate about data visualization even before that, but I never thought about topics like accessibility or doing UX research or thinking so much about bias and getting rid of bias. So when he mentioned and when he reached out, I was like, I kind of have a topic in mind. It's like, especially for people like me, I also come from a tech background. And I thought, probably other people that come from a technical background also are not aware about these topics. So I already had a topic, and as much as I was freaked out about standing here, I was super passionate about the idea to share the topic with the world and help other people create better reports. So long story short, in May 2023, I started speaking, and it was at New Stars of Data. For those of you who don't know it, it's an online conference about data, and it's only for people who have never spoken at a conference before. So it's for newbies, like I was, and it's from the comfort. You can do it from the comfort of your home. So as much as I was freaked out, it's still kind of in your safe space at home. And yeah, I lost my breath a couple of times while I presented, but I realized that I really enjoyed the whole experience as much as I was freaked out. And that experience kind of brought me to Mr. Ben Weissman. Probably you all know him as well. And I had Nicola to nudge me a bit before to start speaking, and then Ben showed up. And he took new stars of data to a whole new level. He also encouraged adding a new speakers track at past Data Community Summit. So he nudged me to apply, and I did. I was hoping I wouldn't get it, but I got in. So my first conference in person was at past Data Community Summit in November. And I thought, if you start there, it's one of the biggest data conferences in the world, like, where do you go from there? And apparently you go to SQL Bits, and you give 3 sessions in 3 days, and hopefully you survive that. Ask me on Saturday if I did. And yeah, before that, I've lived my whole life thinking that I'm living outside of my comfort zone, or meaning that my comfort zone is being outside of my comfort zone. But I had actually no clue how far off this was, because I was never struggling to start things from scratch, to switch topics, to switch industries, to switch countries, start learning another language. I never had problems with that, but that was kind of my extended learning zone. But this kind of pushed me outside of my comfort zone. This gentle nudge that I had from both Nicola and Ben really pushed me in this direction. And the thing is that they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. So I started thinking, what's the worst that can happen? And I think that we should all step out of our comfort zones once in a while. So think about things like, when was the last time you took a risk? Or when was the last time you did something for the first time? And for me, this last year was a year of a lot of firsts. And I really felt like I grew a lot. And as much as I'm grateful for that I have had these people in my life, I'm aware that not so many people have that opportunity. And because I also didn't have that for a long period of time until I bumped into Nicola. And they showed up and they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. So they also inspired me to reach higher and to follow my own path. So on this journey, it's important to remember that we need to inspire others, especially if we didn't have this before. We know how important it is to help others, to inspire them to believe in themselves. So that's what I started doing. So in December, I had this idea to start my Coffee Stories initiative. And it was just a 30-minute call, and everyone could schedule it from the data world, from anyone who's starting out with Power BI, or who's interested about learning how you can become a speaker and so on. So it didn't matter. And people started reaching out to me. And it felt really, as much as I wanted to inspire them, I feel like I ended up inspiring myself even more, or they inspired me even more. So on your journey, don't forget about the essentials. So always follow your curiosity. As we said, I don't want to say follow your passion, but follow your curiosity. Think about what you're passionate about, what brings you joy in your day, not only at work, in general. Just follow that. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone once in a while. I'm not saying take reckless risks, but take a risk once in a while. What's the worst that can happen, right? Or say yes, stay open to opportunities. actively seek out mentors. I know this is probably not so easy. Probably this is the hardest one. And there's also a lot of organizations that can help you do this. So if you don't have a mentor, there's a bunch of networking and mentorship organizations. You can reach out and you get paired with a mentor and you work. I mean, I've also had that. I've also had an official mentor that was dedicated to me for half a year. And she's a very dear person to me even today, so we became friends. So I really encourage you to seek out mentors. And on your journey forward, don't forget about the people that follow. Don't forget about inspiring others to find their own path, not to follow yours, but to find their own path. And yeah, with that, I want to say that I'm super excited about my journey, and I can't wait to see what's next. Yeah, so to wrap up, my contact details once again. That's my QR code. It's the LinkedIn profile, and you have my Twitter handle and my email over there. And with that, I just want to thank you so much for your attention. I know it's after lunch. I hope you didn't fall asleep. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, feel free, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Yes, I'm so happy.
Very inspirational talk.
Sorry?
Very inspirational.
I'm so happy to hear that.
The part about inspire others, yeah, that's very important. But sometimes you are forgetting. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, kind of you have to mindfully do that. It's probably, I mean, it kind of, it becomes a habit after some time, I would say. But yeah, you should start. Yeah.
Just make it habit.
Yeah, but I did. As Paulina is here, I'm so happy, and it's funny because she's my mentor actually at work, and we kind of did reverse mentoring with that one. So she started speaking after me. But yeah, I'm so happy. And yeah, I mean, if you have any questions about the journey or anything, feel free. You can also book a coffee story with me. I didn't put the link for that, but you can find it on LinkedIn for sure. I'm always happy to chat with people. Yeah. Thank you all.